Hey, it's Alex, and the chapter that I got was chapter 5, Symbolic Interactionism by George Herbert Mead. So let's get to it. So, men believe that our thoughts, self concept, and where communication we live in are created through communication symbolic interaction. This chapter splits onto why symbolic interaction theory is what it is. It like splits into mind, self, and society, and it says how these critical thinking, these three critical human characteristics to develop. Without symbolic interaction, humanity as we know it wouldn't exist. So the way they split it is like the first one being meaning, and meaning is the construction of social reality. Human act towards people or things based on the meaning they assign to those people or things. It's like if you have like a thing or a person, like when you see a thing you associate it with like a memory, like you see something, you're like, oh, it instantly takes me to that thought, or if you see a person like that. And it's also it's like the voices in your head. Everybody has voices in your head, like telling you like things like, and this goes on to a example that he uses in the book. And Herbert says, "It is my belief we all at time or another secretly ask ourselves the question, am I crazy? In my case, the answer came back as reasoning yes. You're thinking, how does a person know if they're crazy or not? Well, sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you can go through life suspecting you are, but never really knowing for sure. Sometimes you know for sure because you got so many people telling you you're crazy, and that's your word against everybody else's. After all, what is reality anyway? Nothing but collective hunch." So by reading this, I think he was like saying maybe fantasies that we have in our head sometimes, and then you're like telling your friends about it, and they're like, "Oh, you're crazy," or like the voices in your head like telling you things, and you're like, "Oh, am I crazy? Like, are you crazy? What do you consider crazy?" So the next one is language. Is the source of meaning that arises from social interaction that people have with each other. And another example that he uses in the book is that it's like a puzzle. Like, here's the example he puts in the book. A father and his son were driving to a ball game when their car stopped on the railroad tracks. In the distance, the train whistle blew like warning, like the train was coming. And then the father couldn't get the engine to start, so then they got hit by the onrushing train. So then an ambulance goes to the scene, picks him up, takes him to the hospital, but on the way to the hospital, the father dies, and then the son isn't left in critical condition and he needs surgery right away. So when they arrive to the hospital, the surrogate, the doctor surrogate, I don't know how to say it, when she like gets to the scene, she gets to the scene ready to like attend the boy with surgery. But then surrogate, when he sees the boy, the surrogate goes, "Oh, I can't operate on this boy. He's my son." So then I'll give you like a second, like, oh, like, how? Well, the answer is that the surrogate is his mother, a woman, and I guess here he's like saying how language is like when you think like this example he uses is like a doctor. You think, oh, doctor, a man, you know, you nobody like he says like nobody thinks as doctor as a primary like as a woman. So that's also part of it. So the third one is thinking. It's the process of taking the role of the other. An individual's interpretation of a symbol is modified by their thought process. It's like what I said earlier. Like when you see like something or like a memory, it takes you back to them. I think so. Then on he goes on to like to understand meaning, language, and thinking. It also follows by these next ones, which is self, society, that also go with those. And self is just reflection in a looking glass, the idea that we get a glimpse of we are thought in who we are through introspect. So it's like the book says like you look at yourself through a mirror and you see like a different perspective of a three-way mirror. It's like you like how do you see yourself but like in three different ways? It's maybe like I think he was saying like something about the voices in your head. Like in one mirror you see this, and the other one another thing, and then the other one a different thing. So then the next one is society, the socializing effect of others, of other expectations, refers to the concept. It refers to the composition, com, composite, composite person in our mind, with whom we are dialogue as our generalized other. This um, partner conversation partner in our head is a blend of not only a significant other, like family, close friends, and outside authority figure, but also voices from backward society. It's like I was saying earlier. It's like in your head you have different voices, and those voices can sound like as your maybe your partner, like someone from your family, a close friend, or just like someone from like a different aspect of you. Um, so simply, like, how do we use this like on an everyday, like on our daily life? Um, it's like mostly like stereotypes, like we stereotypes things. So some examples are like an image of a stick figure with a dress means a woman. An image without a dress means a man, and then a drawing of heart means love. And like other examples that I found was like when someone hears the word dog, that could um, symbolize like furry, heartwarming, loving animal. But then another person, when they hear the word dog, can get like triggered because they maybe got a bad experience with a dog. It's just like different types of things that we symbolize with objects. It's like those, like that, like with just simpler words. But some questions that I came up with is like, what do you consider crazy? Like, do you consider yourself crazy if you have voices in your head? Like, what do you consider crazy? Like, also like, what are the voices in your head sound like? Are they like family members? Are they like your own voice? Or like, how do they sound like? Like, what do they tell you? Like crazy things like that. Um, so in conclusion, me personally, I do have voices in my head, and one's in English, one's in Spanish, and I consider myself crazy. Um, because sometimes they're like bicker each other, but like the very strong voice is like the Spanish one, because like I think in Spanish, like everything I do in my head is in Spanish. Like before I talk, before I write, like counting and all that, it's all in Spanish, and then like English. So, do I consider myself crazy? Yeah. I still don't know like the real definition of crazy, but that's what I say about myself. So, yeah, that was my presentation on symbolic symbolic interactism.